According to Yoruba tradition, a young person quoting proverbs in the presence of adults must do so humbly and respectfully. Therefore, in line with tradition, I humbly crave the indulgence of my parents and Yoruba elders worldwide before going ahead with this episode. Thank you for your time. Let's get to it. So the first proverb says, Ohun tí ire ṣe tó fi kán lápá. Aláǹtẹ̀tẹ̀ ní kí wọ́n jẹ́ kóhun ṣe. That which the cricket attempted and broke a leg. The aláǹtẹ̀tẹ̀, the millipede, asks to be permitted to attempt the same thing. Ohun tí ire ṣe tó fi kán lápá. Aláǹtẹ̀tẹ̀ ní kí wọ́n jẹ́ kóhun ṣe. That which the cricket attempted and broke a leg, the millipede asks to be permitted to attempt. So this one is describing crickets and millipedes, two insects. Well, the millipede is not exactly an insect because it has more than 6 legs. So the cricket has wings, it has 6 legs. It's a typical insect. It can fly, it can chirp, and so on. So the cricket attempted something and broke a leg. But then the millipede, with its soft and squishy body and no wings to fly and evade anything, is asking to be permitted to do the same thing that the cricket did, and the cricket broke a leg. So some people never learn from other people's mistakes. Some people don't know their abilities and capabilities, and they try to do things that even hurts or injures other people that supposedly should be able to do those things. Ohun tí ire ṣe tó fi kán lápá. Aláǹtẹ̀tẹ̀ ní kí wọ́n jẹ́ kóhun ṣe. That which the cricket attempted and broke a leg, the millipede asks to be permitted to attempt. So the second proverb says, Ohun tí kò tó okoo kì í jẹ agba níyà. Something that is not worth the least amount of money should not prove a hardship for an elder. Ohun tí kò tó okoo kì í jẹ agba níyà. Something that is worth very little amount of money shouldn't prove a hardship for an elder. So in other words, we shouldn't be defeated by insignificant problems. An elder, even though retired, should be in a position to be able to afford something that has negligible cost or price. So that means the elder should have worked hard as a youth to have enough resources saved up, not just money, enough resources saved up for them to be able to afford certain things in their old age. And again, not just money. So this is a proverb that is deep in the sense that it's talking about money, but it's mostly not talking about money. Ohun tí kò tó okoo kì í jẹ agba níyà. Something that is worth very little amount of money should not prove a hardship for an elder. So the next proverb says, Ohun tí wèrè fi ń ṣe ara ẹ̀, ó pọ̀ ju ohun tó fi ń ṣe ọmọ ẹlòmíràn lọ. What the imbecile does to himself or herself is far worse than what he or she does to others. Ohun tí wèrè fi ń ṣe ara ẹ̀, ó pọ̀ ju ohun tó fi ń ṣe ẹlòmíì lọ. What the imbecile does to himself or herself is far worse than what he or she does to others. So this case describes where someone with a mental issue is going around the town, scaring people and trying to basically scare people. And this person with the mental issue is doing things like banging pots and pans on their head to scare people. They are doing things like trying to bite rocks to scare people. They are doing things like taking a branch and flogging themselves just to scare people. And all those things are hurting this imbecile way more than it's doing anything to other people. So someone intending to hurt others is in fact doing him or herself greater injury. Ohun tí wèrè fi ń ṣe ara ẹ̀, ó pọ̀ ju ohun tó fi ń ṣe ẹlòmíì lọ. What the imbecile does to himself or herself is far worse than what he or she does to others. So the next proverb says, Ohun tó ṣe faga là ń faga sí. Èwo ni ìwòyí àná, mo ti na àná mi fagafaga. One only boasts about things that are proper to boast about. Who has ever heard of the boast, quote, by this time yesterday, I had given my in-laws the beating of their lives. Ohun tó ṣe faga là ń faga sí. Èwo ni ìwòyí àná, mo ti na àná mi fagafaga. One only boasts about things that are proper to boast about. Has anyone ever heard of the boast, quote, by this time yesterday, I had given my in-laws the beating of their life. So this one is describing the case where someone is boasting about beating up their in-laws, which is inappropriate, which can get you in all types of trouble, which can even excommunicate you from the tribe, the village, the town, and so on. So you shouldn't boast about something that is not proper to boast about. Like someone boasting about beating up their in-laws. So you shouldn't beat up your parents, much less your spouse's parents. So we should confine our actions to the actions that are proper and becoming. Ohun tó ṣe faga là ń faga sí. Èwo ni ìwòyí àná, mo ti na àná mi fagafaga. One only boasts about things that are proper to boast about. Has anyone heard of the boast, quote, by this time yesterday, I had given my in-laws the beating of their lives. So the last proverb says, Ohun tó yẹni ló yẹni, okoo ọrùn kò yẹ adìyẹ. Whatever is becoming for a person is what is becoming for that person. A roped collar is not proper for a chicken. Ohun tó yẹni ló yẹni, okoo ọrùn kò yẹ adìyẹ. Whatever is becoming for a person is what is becoming for that person. A roped collar is not proper for a chicken. So in this case, we have a case where someone is putting a collar with a leash on a chicken. Collars and leashes belong to dogs and not even any other type of pet, not a cat, not a hamster, and so on. So in this case, we have someone putting a roped collar on a chicken. That is not proper for the chicken because you cannot exactly take the chicken on a walk with a roped collar. It's going to hurt the chicken. It's going to make you look crazy. If people see you, they're going to cross the street and have nothing to do with whatever made you put a roped collar on a chicken. So it's improper on so many levels for the chicken, for the human, even for the collar. Because how do you start designing collar to fit the neck of a chicken in a way that wouldn't strangulate the chicken? How do you even put the collar on the chicken, and so on and so forth? Ohun tó yẹni ló yẹni, okoo ọrùn kò yẹ adìyẹ. Whatever is becoming for a person is what is becoming for that person. A roped collar is not proper for a chicken. So that's all I have for this episode of the Yoruba Proverbs podcast. If you've benefited from this episode, if you feel like this podcast as a whole is adding some value, please kindly share the episode, the podcast, depending on whichever platform you are using to listen right now. You can send the podcast to whoever you think might also learn a thing or two. You can share on WhatsApp, you can share on text messages, you can share however you want to share, email, and so on. So again, thank you once again for being part of this, which is a learning process for me as well. And like I said in the beginning, a young person quoting proverbs in the presence of elders must do so humbly and respectfully. So I crave the indulgence of my parents, Yoruba elders worldwide, as I narrate and break down and analyze these proverbs from my own perspective. And of course, none of these proverbs are definitively translated in one way or the other. The whole concept behind this is to glean the wisdom and the knowledge that our elders keep passing down to us. And this podcast is basically doing just that, so that we just pass on that knowledge as much as we can to as many people as possible, especially in this day and age where the younger ones don't even want to learn the language anymore and they would rather be on social media and so on. So anyway, thank you so much. Talk to you next time. Bye for now.